All right, so I'm here with Liam Kelly, who is a teacher at Sandwich High School, and is also a local musician. So Liam, if you can kind of give an introduction about yourself, of who you are and what you do.
Sure. So my name's Liam Kelly. I teach Spanish at Sandwich High School, and I'm also the department chair of the foreign language department or world language department, which consists of all the languages we teach from grade 7 through 12. And then my side hustle, I guess, is playing some music in some local restaurants, bars type thing with some friends. So.
Awesome. So I've been starting a lot of these out with talking about kind of like where you were when you were when everything was kind of devolving, when the whole thing was kind of unraveling, how you were at the school, how you were communicating with other people during the beginning of everything.
Well, I guess professionally in the school environment, just kind of have a responsibility to sort of keep calm and carry on, I guess. I did give kids opportunities in class to sort of like talk about things and, ask questions that I didn't have the answers to, but just in case they didn't have, anybody letting them do that in certain venues, like in a, just to do it in sort of a controlled environment, rather than their own, their peers or social media or even news, just to kind of be like, just let them ask questions, and mostly honestly just say like, I don't really know the answers to these questions, but the most we can do is, listen to experts and, not panic and things like that.
What was the overall kind of vibe of the school? Because I mean, for me, out of the school system, like how were kids kind of taking in the news as it was unfolding? I can only imagine myself as a young person kind of laughing at most of it. But
yeah, I mean, there were a lot of. I definitely heard some COVID jokes, but I definitely attribute a lot of that to sort of like that a nervous way of dealing with it, right? And that's if you don't know how else to process it, I think that's kind of a way some kids were processing it. I think some kids were also, had like heightened anxiety. Like there was definitely like especially the last couple of days of school, there was a palpable energy of the room that, I would almost compare to like the day before Christmas vacation or something like that. Like everybody's kind of just waiting for that announcement, right? We knew something was gonna happen based on everything that was going around, and the kids are asking a lot of questions. What's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? And we don't know. We just gotta, trust the experts to make that decision that's best for us.
How much notice did you guys have when you knew that school was canceled?
We knew school was canceled Friday afternoon.
Wow, that Friday, and then that's crazy.
I mean, it was
expected.
That's when it became official. I mean, there had been discussions earlier on to say, if this happens, let's start to talk about, in my role as a department chair, like talk in groups with your department. What would it look like? What can your department do to keep learning going in the event that something like this happens?
Yeah.
So, but in terms of official word, I mean, we didn't know until.
That's insane. That's such short notice. So I guess moving now to more of the presents or like the last week or so. And I know it's tough for you as an educator to talk about exactly what's going on, because I'm sure everyone's in this kind of confused place, but can you talk about how school has adapted to this whole thing, or how, in your work?
Yeah. I mean, ultimately I would say from, my perspective, ultimately remarkably well. The kids, for the most part, have been great. We use some online platform stuff for posting assignments and things like that. I mean, different teachers do it to a different extent, but, I post homework and things like that on a online platform anyway, and pretty much all teachers do. And so kids are used to doing that. And teachers have been really great about sort of relying on each other for strategies. That's kind of what, department meetings have changed into, is, less about, philosophy or, upcoming events in the school, and kind of, all right, we're trying to accomplish this. What's a good way to do this? How can we, for languages anyway, like how can we want to test kids on, we still want to have kids doing some speaking. How can we do that? I want to, deliver a lesson in this way. What can we do? So we're kind of learning on the fly, but there are other online communities where we're learning things, and within the school, within a department. I mean, there's just like a constant chat going between the teachers in my department of sharing what's working and what's not, and things like that. So it's. I mean, I ultimately have a positive vibe for what's happening right now for teachers and students, and we're trying to be conscious of, every family is different. Every kid's schedule is going to be different. Some kids are home watching younger siblings. Mm-hmm. Not every kid's going to be able to engage at the same level. So, we're learning on the fly, but I think it's going pretty well, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably just tough for any of the people in your position who are like the superintendent trying to just juggle everything and deal with everything. It's wild.
Yeah, from top to bottom, from the governor to the commissioner of education to individual superintendents and building people. Like, yeah, everybody's doing it for the first time, and then of course down to the kids, and of all different ages. So
I can't even imagine being a student at this time. It's wild.
I know. I can't either.
Well, that's cool. That's kind of been somewhat, everyone's kind of has a positive approach to everything with it. That's neat.
I think so.
And then again, like, I know you do a lot of extracurricular stuff, like you tennis coach and club and stuff like that. How does that play a big part into, I mean, I guess it's all secondary to the actual education. It kind of really showcases now, but
yeah,
speaking on that, sports and everything.
Yeah, that's at this point, I would say all of that is pretty much on hold. I can't speak to everything, but for one club that I advise is UNICEF, and we had a fundraiser plan that was based around prom, and that is totally on hold. I don't know what that prom is going to look like, right. And spring sports as of yesterday had been pushed back to April 27th from March 16th as a start date by the MIAA, the sports governing body. I mean, you can talk further to the athletic director, I'm sure, about this, but and then now school just got pushed back beyond that. So I don't know what that means for spring sports, but I mean, for me, and I think for most teachers, it's like we're focusing on what's directly in front of us at the moment. I mean, I feel bad, especially for kids who are upperclassmen, and this is going to be their either a junior season where they were hoping to get looked at for colleges, or their senior season, going to be a captain, things like that, because it's obviously going to be truncated at the very least. But we got to do, it's like the hierarchy here, right? We've got to stay healthy and safe first, and then focus on the primary role of the school, which is education. And if we can do some of these other things that are, I mean, as you said, extracurricular, like sports and clubs and things like that, as we sort of settle into a groove, maybe we will. But for now, as far as I'm concerned, anyway, it's primarily that prime objective of the school, which is the education part, and making sure kids and families are doing okay.
Yeah, that makes the most sense. I guess kind of shifting a little bit into your other thing that you mentioned, another thing we talked about, being a musician and kind of playing at a lot of restaurants and bars and in events and things like that. I mean, obviously all the bars and restaurants are closed, but can you talk a little bit about that now?
I can, yeah.
Working musician too.
Let my dog back in the house?
Yeah, I think I can pause it. So going back into it, just rehashing, we took a little break, but now going back into your other side, your kind of side hustle, your passion, playing music. Can you talk a little bit about that and how what's going on with that?
Yeah, I mean, similarly to the education, I guess. It's just kind of see a huge pivot in that world. So the primary thing that I do is a duo with a good friend of mine, and like we're not getting together to practice or anything because we can't even do that. And obviously all the venues are closed. I'm assuming it's the same as the schools, right? Until May at least.
Right.
And we'll see what happens. So yeah, it's a bummer to have a bunch of gigs canceled and to, cause that's really, I mean, it does a few different things for me. It's like it's a creative outlet. We write songs. It's just kind of like a recreational thing for my friend and I. Like we just have a great time. And then, it's also good extra money. So yeah. It's a lot of things that are sort of, I guess kind of just like a lot of everybody's experiencing, right? I mean, I feel really lucky that my primary income is education, and I'm still able to stay active in that and pay my bills.
Right.
But I do miss being able to do the music. Obviously I'm doing it by myself, and we got together out of doors around the fire pit earlier this week, social distancing, had a little jam live stream there. So that was fun, and hopefully we can keep doing some things like that. But
have you been seeing, I know there's a couple ones that have been popping up, but has that been a common thing to see a lot of gigging musicians kind of pop up on Facebook? And
yeah, and that's what I was going to kind of advocate for. I mean, there are a significant number of local musicians. I mean, maybe that's more apparent to me because I know a lot of them personally, but for anybody who might be watching who enjoys going to places locally like Fisherman's View or the Pilot House or wherever and catching some live music, like some of those people, that's all they do.
Yeah.
And they're some of the people who have been completely cut off from their income by this. So I have seen some people doing some live streams where they kind of put out a tip jar, right? Like a Venmo or a PayPal or something like that. So if you're somebody who enjoys going to see music and you miss it, I would encourage them to look for, some of the musicians who they like seeing and seeing if they're doing something like that and trying to chip in to help get them through this stretch,
Yeah, absolutely. It's such an interesting new area. I saw Brian Sansa do that too, where it kind of has a tip jar in place for whatever, an hour or so. So it's kind of a fun way to still support them.
Yep. Everybody go watch Brian and throw him some change. He deserves it. He's a hardworking guy.
Right. I guess now kind of wrapping up a little bit, like, do you see, I mean, obviously we can't predict the future at all, but we kind of spoke a little bit before we start recording about some of the medical stuff that's changing. Do you kind of see any of these new iterations being implemented for future use in the schools? The way how we're adapting to it remotely, that we're going to be kind of seeing them being in a way a little bit more efficient. Obviously we'll never lose the person-to-person contact with teaching or things like that, but how it might impact the school system, or what you think?
Well, I mean, so far there's not a lot that I'm doing that I hadn't been doing anyway. I mean, I think it depends on the teacher individually and where they kind of were with technology, if that makes sense. For example, something like, I don't know, like really important lessons. A lot of times I'll do a screencast of whatever kind of presentation I might be doing anyways, so that I can have that posted somewhere for kids who are absent, whatever, stuff like that, just to make my life easier ultimately. And just trying to do that more. And I think some teachers are doing that for the first time. So I think it's probably going to bring some individuals up in terms of like how they're using technology. But for the most part, what I think it's doing is, and this is what I'm hearing from like students in particular, is like highlighting how much harder it is to learn on your own, and how much they miss having somebody who is a professional, a dedicated teacher in front of them to be able to answer questions and explain things. And, a big part of what it means, and the longer I do this, and now that I'm a department chair, and part of my job is observing teachers to kind of comment on what they're doing, that what works and what doesn't, things like that, is that, what teaching really is all about is split-second decision-making constantly, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, even as you were asking about the vibe in the school before break, I mean, you can't necessarily do the same lesson you were planning for if the vibe in the room is one of kind of elevated energy. Right. You kind of have to adapt to that, whether that's, in planning the day before, or sometimes in real time, and a lot of times in real time, right? And you're just constantly, things are happening. I'm sure you can think of a million examples. Right. Just like, weird stuff happens. There are interruptions. Kids do weird things. Like, you're explaining something, it's not working. You need to kind of back things up. You thought everybody understood step one, they didn't from yesterday. So you kind of need to like redo, like you constantly just need to be sort of evaluating where you are, where the kids are, are we ready to keep going? Do we need to try something? Do we need to reinforce? And without the the real face-to-face presence, I think it's a lot harder to do that. And I don't know if you've taken like some online classes, but I mean doing online on work for grad school and stuff like that, I mean I definitely miss that class discussion. Things like that,
the interactions between the teacher and the students and evereveron, even just the
and
facial expressions you get.
Exactly. And we can do it this way, but even was playing Jackbox Live with my brother and my sisters and significant others yesterday, and it's
way less
fun, and it's like cool to be able to connect and do something, it was a lot of fun, and it's certainly better than nothing, but
right
it's not the real thing, and I think that's kind of like the message I feel like I'm getting from students when I talk to them, it's like it's not the real thing.
And it's cool, and it's such a weird sort. It's not, I wouldn't say it's a silver lining, but it shows in this age where everyone talks about how technology is overriding all human contact. When we finally have forced to just stick with our technology, everyone immediately misses the human contact. It shows how important it is.
Definitely.
So fascinating. I mean, even that you said, like how you have to react in the exact moment when a student gives you a weird look. I mean, you lose all of that when you're doing online, remote,
Right.
So it's fun.
And all you got to do is walk outside your house and see, like, I mean, I've seen more, I mean, I'm out walking my dogs all the time in my neighborhood, but I see more people outside in my neighborhood now. And like this, I mean, the weather's been decent, but it's not like it's summer, like, but people are in the conservation lands more. People are at the beach more. Yeah. Like it's busier outside because everybody has to stay inside, and everybody's sick of being on the computer, working from home, and it's
so funny
having to do all their work on the computer and all this. Yeah. So it's, I don't know. I mean, silver linings, right? So people appreciating maybe some things that they weren't as much before, we're all so busy.
Yeah. True. Cool, Liam. That was an awesome talk, and I really appreciate spending some time.
Can I give one more plug?
Yeah, please do.
For things like, so as you and I were planning to play together at this big fundraiser that Capabilities has in May. Like, I'm not sure what's going to happen with that right now even, but just as people are thinking about, people in our community who are having a tougher time than others during this shutdown. Our local musicians need our support, but also our local charities, because a lot of their giving, a lot of their gathering funds requires these sort of like big gatherings of people, right? I mean, so we play this harbor walk that they do down in Hyannis, out in Asselton, down in Asselton Park there. It's a great event, but it's a ton of people. And, you know, that's butting up right against the end of that, the governor's ordinance right now. It's the following weekend after that. So if it extends at all, it's their biggest fundraiser of the year, and they won't be able to do it. A lot of that money gets raised in advance, so they'll still do okay. But just kind of place people like Capabilities who are doing great things in the community. Like they're cut off from a lot of their like events when they can do fundraising. So if you're one of us who are lucky enough to be able to work from home and you know still have our income, just kind of think about our local charities and beyond. But just the things in the community that we're real glad are in place and that are going to be struggling during this time.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. I didn't even think about all these events that are happening in the spring. They're all canceled, and they all generate a lot of money for these different groups. So yeah,
so much. Bummer. Even like, you know, people are canceling stuff that's, you know, beyond this deadline just because they don't think people are going to feel back to normal probably, you know?
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it's certainly a weird thing too, where it's not like it's over and we all can go back to our regular lives. It's going to be a residual sort of solution, which stinks about this. You know, people are still going to have fears. And
Exactly. Yeah. But, you know, I mean, I think for now we also just got to, you know, keep it positive.
Yeah.
Keep playing music, keep learning, you know, keep going outside, you know, doing all that good stuff. So,
keep going.
And keep social distancing.
Yeah, I got to take some tips on that. But I appreciate it. Thanks a lot for talking with me today, Liam.
Okay, man.
Hopefully we'll see you sooner than later.
All right.